Good morning, Yvonne.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone, a warm welcome to all passionate educators joining this Glow session presented by SAR Education. I'm Gitika Sharma, your moderator today. I'm honored to facilitate this exchange of global teaching wisdom. Before we begin the session, let's quickly review our session norms. Please keep your microphones on mute unless you are asked to speak. We encourage you to keep your camera on to make the session more interactive and personal. Feel free to use the chat box throughout the session to share your thoughts, questions, or your comments related to the session. We will have a question and answer segment at the end, so do note down your questions. If you face any technical issues, just ping in the chat box so that our team can help you. Now, we are delighted to welcome Yvonne Del Roto joining us from the UK with Jolly Learning UK. She brings a unique perspective as former UK teacher and head teacher in Spain, educational consultant collaborating worldwide. She is an advocate for SCL and other anthropological approaches in education. She also has done literacy project across Africa and Southeast Asia. Now, about today's session. Today's session explores the heart of learning, early years education, and socio emotional learning. You will discover how cultural understanding transforms SCL in early education through formal and informal systems. So, join me in welcoming Yvonne. Over to you now.
Well, thank you so much. And I've had a big build up and I'm absolutely excited to be sharing with you. Normally, I talk a lot about literacy, but today I'm talking about how to get children in the right place for literacy development. I've spent many, many years working with teachers and schools, and I've traveled extensively. And one of the things that I do realize is that when children are feeling emotionally secure in the classroom, they want to come to school, they want to be in the classroom. That opens up the gateway for learning. And if many of you joining me now with this talk and having this wonderful experience with SARS and Glow, you will have heard a lot of information about how we interact with children and skills and strategies. So I'm hoping that this morning or this afternoon where you are, that you will be leaving the session with a few ideas to start thinking about social and emotional learning in your classroom and the benefits it can have, more so with early years. So this is always the worst nerve-wracking part for me when I share my screen. And here we go. So hopefully this is going to work now. And I will ask my colleagues to let me know if everything is okay when screen share comes up, if we're okay. And if you can let me know at the tech end if my PowerPoint is coming up. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, it's there. Yes, it is there.
Brilliant, thank you. So what a pleasure it is for me to join you today, and even more so to share what I have. What is the point of having skills and knowledge and experience if I can't share it with you and you can take it away and make it your own? So that's the most important thing. And also, let's have a look at what we're covering today. So you'll be getting a copy of this PowerPoint so you can go back and look and refresh your memory with a lot of the information I'm giving you. But you've got some fundamentals here. But more than anything, we're looking at language, we're looking at emotion, we're talking about early years and how we can get it right for children at foundation stage so that they can go on to be successful learners. Now, social and emotional learning is not the magic cure for everything, but what it does do, and what we will see through the presentation, is how small changes to how you deliver your classes and also the materials that you use in your classroom for literacy, for example, can make a huge impact with small children. So I think we're on the right path, aren't we? Getting children in the right place, helping teachers understand how to implement, but more than anything, giving you ideas to take away. And as we move forward, It's the question that I often get asked is, where do I start? Where do I start with Cell? What do I need to do? What changes? And there aren't a lot of changes that you need to do. But I need to start giving you some background as to why, the reason why. I can talk about how, but if we don't express the reasons why, you're going to be forever thinking, I'm not really sure, I'm not really invested in this. I need to have a few points. I can go away and do some exploration and go deeper into Cell. There has been a lot of research, and we'll talk about that. But what I want you to go away from with this presentation and this session is asking yourself, can I do this tomorrow when I go into school? And the answer is yes. You've got a few tips and strategies to get you started. So this is where we're going to start. Okay, so what we need to know. Again, I mentioned about the how, and what we need to know is why children struggle in school. Many of the time it is that they feel that they cannot express themselves. They may not have the language to express themselves. And if you're working with very young learners, maybe with children as a second language, it can be frustrating and they get overwhelmed. And as you see on this slide, we have that word, overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed as adults, but with our mastery skills, we know how to name our emotions, and we also know how to have some regulation. Sometimes emotions can be overwhelming even for us as adults. So just imagine when you're a small child and you don't really know why you're feeling upset, what is making you angry, and you don't know how to talk about things you like or dislike. So we can see how some of this can lead to challenging behavior. And if you're recognizing some of the things I'm saying, give me a thumbs up in the chat box or let me know how you are resonating with this already. That aggression, children unmotivated, children feeling unhappy can often happen because we do not have a way or a place for them to talk about their emotions in the classroom. Sometimes as teachers, we don't even have time in the classroom to talk about emotions. Sometimes those emotions are just slotted into a section within our teaching book or a section within our teaching time in our timetable. And some of the questions that I've had is, how do I get started? And how do I open up social emotional learning? So it's not just compartmentalized to children coming into the class in the morning and we say, how are you feeling today? And if we think about that, we also need to understand that if children have got a community, a harmonious classroom, they begin to constructively talk about their likes and dislikes. We want children to have an opinion. We want them to be able to offer their likes and what they want to do, why they dislike something, why they like something, because this is an inner narrative that we have as we get older. Not all children are going to like what they've read. Not all children are going to understand why we have rules and routines. But also, social emotional learning is helping the child understand their place in the world and not that the world is there for them. It's very hard for children to understand why everybody is not doing everything the same way that they do at home or they like. It's about adaptability. And think about it. Think about it in school or in your classroom or where you work. You may have people that you don't particularly like or that you have to work with, but you have developed the emotional awareness and the skills to be able to work as a team, to be able to recognize that I may not particularly like a person or I may not particularly like a project, but I know that I can move forward, I can do it, and I've got the right infrastructure to help me. So also when we're talking about this, I'm also, as you can see here, how we're looking at the staff and the school. Cell works best when it is with all the school having the same mentality, helping the child with their flight path. And also what we are looking at are ways that we can implement just simple and effective strategies that makes it a whole school approach. If something is working really successfully in your early years and as children move on with their flight path of learning, if something is successful within your class, share that. Because if we've got the whole school working on the same trajectory, What a successful environment you are creating, not only for literacy learning, but every type of learning. So this is the why, and it's an important why because you understand that the burden of a teacher doing so should not be an effortless one in your environment. But then in team meetings and sharing information, you can talk about what works for your unique teaching environment. Literacy is so much more than about the ability to read and write. We know that if you feel confident, if you have that self-esteem, you will put your hand up, you will contribute, you will talk. But more than anything, what we have found with research is that children who have a great social and emotional learning background, they move on to be very successful in upper years or later on in further education, and they don't drop out as quickly because they feel secure. And the United States have done so many studies that have covered children who started doing social emotional learning about the age of 4 and 5 right through till they finished university, and the success rate has gone up. So children coming from low economic school backgrounds or where they have challenging environments have done really well. So I can see we might be getting some questions, and maybe if they're quick questions, I can answer them or maybe leave them to the end. So please let me know what suits. And developing literacy. Now think about literacy. Imagine if you couldn't read or write. Imagine trying to express yourself to someone if you haven't got the capacity with the right language. And again, this also mirrors on your self-confidence as a child. As we are embracing a generation of children who are constantly looking to social media to see how they fit in, it is an emotional tightrope as we need children to strengthen their own awareness and their own ability to say, this is me, I can identify myself, I know how I feel without having to be vulnerable to the images on social media, more so as children are going through adolescence, to have that ability to understand their place in the world and how they can move forward. But that's a bigger conversation which we don't really have time for today. And talking about time, I'm keeping an eye on the time. So as a teacher, and I'm sure many of you are teachers out there today coming to this session, we cast a long view, and that's called a long shadow in education. And I love that term, a long shadow, in that what you implement in early years moves all the way through with what children are doing in primary and additionally in the secondary. What foundations we are putting in foundation stage is that scaffolding of emotional literacy. I get quite excited about this because when we're in early years, we have the ability to bring so much to early years planning without it feeling constructed. But if you are an early years teacher, it's the most challenging part of teaching. And I recognize that because I was an early years teacher. You are developing so many things, and also you're aware of this umbrella view of where the children are going and where you are taking them, and that also includes their ability to develop literacy skills and also be able to express themselves. Challenges for you in the classroom, children expressing themselves in their mother tongue. That's okay. That's okay, because if we can develop the language in the mother tongue, we can transpose that also to the second language, if that's English as an additional language, and it can work vice versa. So you've got to think of the strategies you have in place, and at foundation stage, the scaffolding that you are bringing in, not only with letters and sounds, but also asking children, talking to children, and the other resources you use. Another big area for social emotional learning is the classroom community. Children probably spend more time with you in your classroom than anywhere else. And it's a growth process for them. They're growing in their community. They're beginning to understand how to navigate falling out, wanting the same toy, but also being able to express themselves to each other. It's okay to say you don't like something. But we've got to learn about that and we've got to have a safe environment. So you as the teacher, and I know one of the questions is, where do I start? It's building your classroom community. And within your community, it's more than just having the posters up and the flashcards. It's what you do as the teacher to help the child feel secure. So we've got a lot of foundation here and understanding the benefits. But as we look at the 5 pillars of social emotional learning, there's a lot going on there, isn't there? If you look at it, we have so many core aspects going on with social and emotional learning. And you're probably thinking, hang on a minute. Do you know, I've got a classroom, I've got early years goals that I have to reach. I'm also teaching reading and writing. Apart from that, I'm also having to do evaluations and assessments. Where does this all fit in? I also have my social emotional learning compartment in my units, and I also have to evaluate how children are responding to these units or evaluation for these areas within their learning trajectory. So you're doing a great job. You're probably doing more than you actually think. You probably are aware that you do compartmentalized cell teaching, but you're probably not aware that you're asking the right questions during the class as well. And this session is going to help you understand how, using simple tools, what can I use to get children engaged about talking about their emotions? Because remember, they're very young. They're very young. They're very receptive. They want to hear stories. They want to talk about stories. They want to interact. But they are failing because the spoken word far outweighs the written word. But with what we are doing is children are taking in all that language. They are learning how language is put together. And they are also keeping at the whiteboard at the back of their brain, all this vocabulary is building up. And one day they will have the capacity, understanding how letters and sounds come together, to be able to use this as a tool to help for expression. So you are probably doing this in one way or another, and I am explicitly showing you this now. So well done. You're working really well. And now that I've shown you this, you're probably thinking, yeah, I do a lot of that in my teaching. I do a lot of that each day. But what we are doing is trying to make sure that it is dripped throughout your teaching day, but also it has a meaningful reason. You have some desired goals and desired outcomes for your session. So literacy is much more. And what we do is we bring in rich stories and poetry. We also get children to listen and watch. We give them opportunities to extend their abilities. And we start with asking them to give a narrative. What do you like? Why do you like this? But many of you are probably thinking, I just don't have time in my classroom for talking. And talking can take children off task, boom, just like that. They're gone. If I start asking them about what do they think and what do they feel, I've lost my class. They'll all start talking and I'll have to bring them back. And this is your role as your teacher, to be able to introduce this concept, but also get them used to the idea that we will talk, we will have expression, but also when it's time to move on, we have to move on. And I did this for many years within my classroom. And the first time I tried it, I thought, I've lost my class. This is not going to work. But the more we did it with the children, the more the teachers and I talked about strategies to close that talking session, to move on to the productive writing or learning session, it became easier. Children managed it. We had strategies in place. So the teacher interaction is hugely important, and it's one that is valued, believe me. So let's have a think about how schools are doing it. We're not watching all of this video, but it is actually in the PowerPoints that I have got for you as a handout. But they are using a specific program. There are a lot of programs for social and emotional learning, but honestly, the planning and the guidance is a great asset. But also, you're going to just see a couple of minutes of how a teacher now is using social and emotional learning within her planning for literacy. The children have had a great exposure to emotional awareness and emotional language in their early years. So they're very confident about talking. Now, as you listen to this, you will hear how children are using those skills and strategies that have been layered in to be able to be effective in the literacy classroom. Here we go. Just making sure that you have the sound, the share sound. Oops. Oh, I can't go. There we go. All right, it's taking a little bit of time to load, but if it doesn't load, we will move on. Not to worry. Come on, you can do it. So if it's not going to load, then I can talk you through it. Here we go. Oh, we are not getting the sound. Yes. Yeah. You getting the sound? If you, the team in, if they could let me know if you're getting the sound. Are you getting any
No,
sound?
we are unable to hear anything. Even the video is not played yet.
You can't hear it. Nothing's happening.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what we'll do is we'll close this one. But basically, can you hear me okay? Or have I lost you? Hello, can you?
Now we can hear you.
Now you can hear me. I don't know.
Yes,
So my apologies. There's always technical issues. Let's try again.
that's okay. You can
Yeah.
even paste the link of the video in the chat box.
Yeah, they have got it in the PowerPoint presentation that's downloaded. So the link is there so you can see it. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we were going to be looking at within this was how children are responding, how they're responding to the literacy that they're being offered. And some of the children are expressing exactly how they feel. And more than anything, you've got children saying, I didn't feel comfortable with this story. I didn't really like it. I just didn't like it. And you've got other children saying it was great. I really liked the content. It made me feel happy. It made me think about my own experiences. So please have a look at that video. And also what the school did. They took it on as a whole school system. And what you can see here is that if children are in the right place to empathize and talk and be able to give this narrative, how exciting does that become when we transpose that to writing? We are often in the classroom saying to children, right, we've got 40 minutes to do some writing. I want a beginning and a middle and the end. And I want a plot, I want characters, I want you to describe where you are. I also want you to put some emotion in and how the children are, or your plot, how are they characters in the plot, where are they starting, where are they going to. But if children haven't got any experience of this and they can't talk about emotion, how are they going to write something interesting and exciting and enjoyable without us exploring that ourselves throughout really rich literacy texts, talks, what we see, and also taking it out of that compartmentalism of just looking at the happy face, the sad face. How are you feeling today? So children learn how to process their own emotions, and starting that in early years also means that we are extending it to parents, to carers, and also that children can feel safe to talk about their emotions wherever they go. So we've talked a lot about the foundation, but one thing I think is really important is that child that you are working with today is going to become a very strong adult and individual. And that journey is that long shadow that you have started and they have moved on. And what does research say? It works. Children are secure, they're invested, they feel empathy, and they want to be part of their classroom community. So let's see how we can have a look at this. A lot of people say to me, is SEL the same as mindfulness? It is similar, but not the same. They are two separate areas, but they are great when they are taught together. Mindfulness is when children are looking about themselves. They are invested in understanding their present thoughts and emotions. Mindfulness, just what it says, is being aware of that moment, of where you are and what you are doing. Whereas social and emotional learning is more about you in the environment, how you are connecting with the people around you, how you are working with your community. So you may be doing different aspects of this within some of the features within your school planning, but also if you can combine the two together, that's even best. But we're not going to talk about mindfulness today. We are focusing on social and emotional learning, and I wanted you to be clear. So again, I'm not going to talk too much about this. You have this on your slide that way you can have a look, but it's also giving you some clarity that when you are presenting an idea to your team about taking mindfulness or social emotional learning on board, you know which the difference is between each one. So you have this to look at if you download the presentation. But it all starts with you. Now here I want you to sit up in your chair and really pay attention because you're going to do some activities with me. Because you as a teacher need to be able to understand how your emotions are. How do you feel? How can you bring this forward? And so we're going to do a little activity to help you, the teacher, to think about how you can transpose it into the classroom. So I hope you're all ready for that. And if Gitika could tell me in the chat box if we've got some thumbs up, if people are ready and they're happy to participate. Have we, Gitika? Are they
Yes,
ready? Okay, let's
they are
go.
writing yes.
Yeah, okay. So it starts with you. What an exciting journey. Think about it. Everything you read gives an emotional response. Politics, you might get angry. A love story, you might feel passionate. Something that is historical, you might feel proud. Something that resonates with you, a letter, a card, a beautiful poem. Everything gives an emotional response. When we listen to music, where does it take you? Where does music take you? Does it take you to somewhere in your past? Does it remind you of a place or a person you were with? Does it conjure up an atmosphere you want to recreate? We often play music because we want to recreate where we first heard it. And I bet many of you listen to something on the radio and yeah, I remember that. I remember I heard that. I heard that somewhere else. So this is what resonates. Now remember, this is the same with children. And also how you feel, what you touch, what you interact with resonates. It's the same with the senses, what you taste. And things often bring back a sensation. You may like to touch something and feel something that makes you feel comfortable, secure. And many people wrap themselves up in something soft because they want to feel loved and secure. So again, it's our emotional response. Emotion is in everything we do and see, and of course, the interactions we have. You may go out for a dinner as an adult or meet with friends and you think, why is that person not talking to me like they used to do? Or what could be wrong with them? Are they happy? Are they sad? We are always investigating emotions. Now, again, as I mentioned, with your mastery level of being adults, you've had a lot of experiences with emotions and you know how to deal with them. Imagine if you're 4 years old and you don't know why you are feeling upset and sad. So I'm going to ask you a question and maybe Gitika can help me with this. How are you today? How are you today? Put your response in the chat box. How are you today? Please let me know. How are you today? And I bet many of you are putting on fine, thank you. I'm okay.
Well
I'm
rested.
feeling happy, yeah. And just putting in, I'm okay. Sweet Mary's, yeah, I'm okay. I'm feeling excited, fantastic, great. Look at this. Look at all these wonderful, wonderful responses that you're giving me. When you ask someone, how are they today? Are you really invested in what they respond? How many times walking through the corridor at work, they said, how are you? How are you today? How are you today? Are you really listening? Do you pick up on that person who took a bit longer to answer and stop and think, that's unusual? And it's the same with children. It's the same with children. How are you today? I'm fine, thank you. How are you, ma'am? Stock answer. We want children to be able to respond. We want children to identify if they're having a bad day. They want children, if you can get a child to get it out of the way before learning starts, they're in the right place to capture everything you're going to give them. So how are you today? I'm not having a great day. I didn't start well this morning, mum. My mum told me off. Get it out. And another child, yeah, my mum told me off as well. And I don't know why. So you can see how given these opportunities, but the most important thing is you as a teacher understanding how to respond and how to navigate these questions so it doesn't overwhelm your class as well. Responses like, I'm really glad you shared that with us. And let's hear what somebody else has to say and see if we have someone else who's a bit sad this morning. And once we found somebody else who's able to tell that, let's move on. Does anyone have any good thing? What happened to you today? That's brilliant. I saw my rabbit this morning before I went out. So in your community, we're looking at how you can construct the right questions to get the right answers. But also what I'm going to do now is take you on a journey where using visual cues can help promote children's social and emotional learning in your classroom. Are you ready? Let's see how it goes. So if we go through this little activity now, you're going to be presented with opportunities so that you can explore your own diversity of emotions. As I said, as a teacher, it's good you understand your emotional language and what you have to do. If you're an emotionally illiterate teacher, this is going to pass on to your children in the classrooms. And as I've mentioned about songs and stories, we don't want them just delivered and tick in a box saying, I've done sell for the day. Whew, that was a relief, it's gone. Social emotional learning should be woven into every aspect of your teaching throughout the day. It doesn't hurt to check in with a class if you're delivering something, especially if you're with older children, say, did you really get that? Are any of you unsure? If you're okay, go ahead. Ones who are unsure, come to me. Let's talk about how you're feeling about the concept. It's not showing you as a weak teacher. It's showing you as a caring teacher and one who wants to support their children. So I've been in Malaysia working on a big project, and I was absolutely stunned when I went into a nursery to see how they're looking at using social and emotional learning, but also developing this with children. The children are discovering themselves, but they're also using their literacy class to do this. I hope this plays now. Let's see, is it playing? Yeah. Whoops. I'm having a big problem with my videos today, and it's a shame because this is a great one because it does have lots. I'm going to just go back and go forward. It has lots of ideas for you to have within your planning. So let's try this one again and see where we go, if it works. No, it's not going to play. Oh, here we go. Yeah. And as you can see, the children here are working on themselves, identifying features about themselves in these great opportunities and talking about what they want to be and where they want to go. And they're recreating themselves and what they like. And so it's been scribed for them because they're very young. They're seeing how they see themselves. They're seeing how themselves using the wider curriculum to do this. And it looks absolutely amazing that children can do this. If I ask you to think about just looking at this one shot of how children are, it's got stuck, but we'll stay with this one. If you think about it, put in the chat box, besides talking about emotions, besides children being able to look at themselves and really, really look at themselves and think about how they are, what other concepts are we covering that would go with the curriculum? In the chat box, put what other areas of this this social and emotional learning, but what other cross-curricular concepts are we doing? Put them in the chat box and share, because I'm sure you can see more than one concept here. So we've got facts, feelings, and finds, yeah, intense, yeah, inclusivity and identity. What else do we have? Now think about it. Emotions, self-awareness, go bigger, go much bigger. We have colors, we have fine motor skills development, we have hand-to-eye coordination, we have cognitive development. We also have children making decisions on how they see themselves. But apart from that, they're using language, not only language that fits with the curriculum, but they're also using their emotional language and personal language. They're giving a demonstration of so many areas. Now, this is writing. We're not using a pencil or paper. We're using thinking skills, critical thinking skills. What am I going to put? How do I want to be seen? And all those other things that I have amplified out to you are part of this lesson. It's not just social and emotional learning. Children are going in so many different areas and different strands. And that's where I want to take you, is what you ask the children, because your story becomes their story. Your story is, what do you do emotionally? How do you talk about emotions? How do you feel about sharing your emotions with children? But also, now we're going to go through a little section, and I hope this works because it's a video, of looking at emotion, looking at the emotion that goes with a visual. So let's hope that this works. So here you can see we're looking at visuals. And these visuals can be used in your classroom to be a discussion point. When you hold up a flashcard of a happy face or a sad face, what is that doing with the children? It's not helping them resonate. It's not giving them a scenario. It's not giving them a life picture of where they can identify and put themselves. And also, it's not giving them a point to talk about. I'm just going to check if this works. How strange. Nothing is working. Anyway, we have it. Here we go. So please just sit back and have a look at these images. How do they make you feel? How, oh Lord, it's not working, but not to worry. So we're using the images. How do they make you feel? Why do you think this is happening? Does it bring you back to a place that you remember? Can you remember feeling like this? What else is happening in the picture? Why do you think they're laughing? Have a look in the background. What do you see? Why do you think that child is doing that? What colors do you see? What makes this special? Hopefully it will move on. But luckily I've got some cards for us to look at. So you have a deck of cards that are part of the handout. Now, if we think of these pictures, they promote and they evoke an emotion. Children are looking at things. They're looking at the colors. They're looking at the eyes. They're looking at the mouth. They're looking at the gesture. And they're looking at the funny parts. I'm evoking a lot of emotions, showing you these visual images. And also, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you some questions when the slide deck finishes for this, and ones that you can think about using in your classroom. All of these images have evoked you could say, well, I don't like that. I like that. Wow, look at that child. Why is that child crying? Why are they upset? So I have deliberately picked these images to promote an emotional response in one way or the other. The emotion may be happy or sad, it may be challenging, but also I'm getting children to use language, observational skills, they're listening, and also comprehension skills. And what are these all for? All of these skills we are using, looking at these visual cues, are ones that you need for writing, exams, and children moving further up in the school to be able to complete these things. So let's have a look. I'm going to get you to join in with me now. Let's move on to the next slide. Oh, this is beautiful. In the chat box, how does this make you feel? Have a look at this. Have a look at this beautiful sunflower. It's a sunflower, sunflower. How does it make you feel? I'm going to check the chat box. Tell me. I've got my messages. Let's have a pleasant, rise, fresh day, bright, happy, vibrant, gives me a bright and happy feeling. I'm glowing. Excellent pun. Sunshine, attractive, beauty. Just imagine all those words that are coming from this one image. Now, if I wanted to spread this out to be a great literacy thing as well, I could ask them to describe the colors. You know, what can you see? Orange, yellow, is it big or is it small? And what insect can we see? So I'm zooming in on the emotion and then I'm zooming out to get the literacy aspect going. We are using adjectives, we're using nouns, we're using connectors, but the children don't know that because I'm doing it in a very passive way. Now, also, when we look at the next one, what do you notice? Now, think about this. How does this make you feel? Why do you think this young boy is jumping in the water? Now, I'm asking you questions now, like why? How does he feel? How does he feel? Where do you think he is? Do you think he is happy? And let me just check the chat box now to see how we're expanding on using this. Nature, freshness, mind-free, enjoying, positivity, happy. Wow, you're really engaging with this. Enjoying his own company, exploring. Boy feeling extremely happy. And he's enjoying nature's beauty, but also you could use this. Oh, that's great. You're great participants, I have to say. If we look at this, we could also talk about clothes. What is he wearing? He's got Wellington boots on. He's got boots. He's got an umbrella. He's also is he in a city, a town? Where do you think he is? I'm keying into your observation skills. Where do you think this boy is? Where is he living? What's happening in the background? It's a city. What season is it? Exactly. He loves the rain. Maybe this is a place where they don't often get rain. So again, not only am I zooming in on emotions, but I'm also bringing it out to cross curricular. And I love this photo of a little boy. He's having the best moment. And how does it make you feel? If we look at this little chap, how old do you think he is? How old do you think he is? So let's have a look in the chat box. How old do you think he is? He's quite little, isn't he? He's 5, 6. Yeah, he's really happy. I'm going to ask you the question. Why do you think he's laughing? Why do you think he's laughing? Now, just imagine if you were a 5 or 6-year-old responding to that question. Why do you think he is laughing? And maybe somebody's played a joke on him. Maybe somebody surprised him. Maybe he's excited. And you look at the body movements, look at how his hands are and everything. He's clearly interested in something funny. So again, we're resonating, we're zooming in and zooming out, in and out. I'm developing the child's emotional language and awareness, but I am also building on those literacy skills. Oh my goodness, look at this one. So we won't spend too long on the next ones, but what I am going to ask here is, how do you think this girl is feeling and why? And let's have a look in the chat. Let's see. Why is she feeling like that? She's sad, she's tired. And maybe she's very tired. It might be something, she's upset and lonely, she's disappointed, she's feeling isolated. Oh my goodness, you're the best participants ever. Look at this. Boom, 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 boom. This is absolutely great. So again, this is an opportunity for us to talk about being sad, and we can see she's outside. Maybe she's been taken out of a game. Maybe her friends don't want her in the game. As you can see, we're making observations, we're listening, there's comprehension, but we are really, really exploring emotional language now and how it can penetrate into children's classes. And I love this one. We all have moments like this, don't we? Where we're pensive and reflective. She's kind of smiling. So again, she might be just having a moment out, daydreaming. She may have finished her working class and just put her head on the table for a moment. Again, we can ask children, what do they do when they feel tired? We can offer a strategy. This is a great one that if a child has finished their work and they don't want to disrupt the class, you can say you can put your head on the table and have a think. You know, we can offer things that fit our classroom dynamic. And if we go on to this one, this is just great. Look at this. We have what we guess may be the dad with a small child, and look at that laughter ringing out. And why do you think they're laughing? Why do you think they're laughing? And what I can see from the chat box is you're already great at social and emotional learning. Look at all these responses. You are already been able to express yourself, but what we can see here is that using the visual cues have opened up an avenue for where children can use their multisensory approach, which is their eyes and their ears. And just think also a happy moment with the father, cherishing the bond, yummy food. Look at this, enjoying the company, belongingness. Look at this rich tapestry of language you have brought to these few cards that I have shared with you. Now, another thing that also can promote excellent emotional responses is music in class. Sometimes closing your activity when you're saying to children, we have 15 minutes to do this activity or 10 minutes to do it, and they're going off to do some independent work, be it mark making or with older children, putting in that music as a audio cue that it's time to stop, but also one where they can do it within their time. Play that music for a minute and children get used to that. It's a very good strategy to stop children saying, I didn't finish, I didn't know how to carry on. And, you know, you stopped it too quickly, I want to finish. These little strategies that can work together along with what children see and what they hear and what they feel can make the classroom a little bit more successful. Did you like looking at the visual cues? Did you like looking at the cards to help promote emotional language in your classroom? Yes. And that's really good that we're getting some feedback. And also, you loved it. That's absolutely wonderful, very much. Because these cards, and I have picked the photographs especially, to promote that response. And also what it can do is fit in easily. Now, what you can also do, if any teachers who are working further up the school, if you're getting on Cambridge exams, what you will resonate with and understand is that the listening, speaking and comprehension is hugely important for when children are doing their Cambridge exams and they need to talk about the picture. Just imagine if we get this strategy in place now so that children can freely talk about what they observe. And the language they're putting together in early years and through primary are ones they will really identify when we go on to explicit teaching of English language or your mother tongue, when they have to identify verbs, adverbs, nouns, being able to go in the past, the present or the future. They'll be able to navigate this side of literacy easily because you've allowed some foundation to grow with this opportunity. You can also do it with the stories you're reading, pictures in your unit books. If children are using a class book, just take a bit of time now again to use these same strategies because many have photographs in. Photographs work better than illustrations because illustrations don't really represent the real life. Real life helps children resonate better with their emotional responses. So as you could see, How did they make you feel? And you gave me such a tsunami of responses. I'm absolutely delighted. But also, what did you notice? Your observation skills were looking for things because I was asking you. The more we would do this, the more you would be able to use these cards in the way that you can talk to children so that they can start to create their own stories. Imagine if I said to you, what are these little boys here? I wonder what happened before. I wonder what happened after. We are laying the strategies and the foundations for story writing, a beginning and a middle and an end. We're also giving children something to have as a plateau or a foundation for stories, for their own creative writing. They can work in groups as they move on. They can be a whole class. You'd be surprised how this really works. And often you'll find, like, the phonics books, we have an illustration to get children connected to what they have to do with their writing. And you could ask the children, if you're showing them several images, which one did you like best? And what else did you see? Because what you see, like Gitika here may have seen something in a photo that I didn't see or you didn't see. So that power of observation, getting children to have all of these things in place that not only support your literacy lesson, but they'll also move on to other areas of learning. So I'm quite aware of the time. And I hope you're enjoying this because it's such a lovely thing for you to embed and embrace within your classes. And it gives them the tools. And I'm very big on getting children, and they have their own skill set, but teachers to have their teaching tools to help express and also interweave it into your planning. Um, Let me know in the chat box here. Do you think you could do this tomorrow in your classroom? Do you think you could start making these observations and getting children to respond? Let's see if we have in our chat box. Yes, absolutely, surely. Yeah. Great. And the biggest leap, as I mentioned, was not so much the writing, but children can really flow. Blah, 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 lots and lots and lots of stories. But then when they get to writing, they're stuck. So having a good literacy program in place is really, really important as well, so that we are supporting both sides. Oh, this is great having these lovely responses. And if you are developing literacy, what do you need to discover? You're never going to find one thing that all children are going to like. That's why we have a lot of stories and we have a lot of genres, so that we are supporting that expansion of understanding. But some things that you can develop effortlessly are good listening skills, good speaking skills, knowing how to respond effectively, being able to give the response with meaning. All of these things will be building that spiral literacy development, which means children can write. Yes, they have social media where they're doing their short texts, but what we do need are children who have that they have that plateau to bounce off, so they can get into university, they can go forward with their career, they can feel confident about expressing themselves if they're not happy. So we're starting, as I mentioned, go full view round to the beginning of my session, where I talk about getting it right. The teacher who casts that long shadow, which means that what you put in place in early years often affects what goes ahead. And does it mean more work? No. And I get that question a lot. Do I have extra planning? What if I'm the only one using it in the class? Well, as you can see, social emotional learning is your understanding of emotional language and the diversity of it, and asking the questions. You will become super, super good at doing this the more you do it. And you'll also begin to make it flow effortlessly in your class without disrupting what you are trying to deliver. I don't recommend you're the only one doing it, because children will become so used to using it in their classroom that if another teacher stops that flow, what are we doing? It's like creating a river and then putting a dam in. You want children to flow with it. So talk about doing it as a whole school approach, or certainly if you're in infants, a whole infant promote. And you don't have to change your literacy planning. What I'm asking you to do is open up your literacy planning. Open it up so that you're asking more questions, using what's in your books, and also getting that language back. If you look about it, we have social and emotional learning here. And it's the books that you bring, also your interactions, the questions you're asking, how children are working at home. It will trickle back to home. Also, having confident adolescents, teenagers who can talk about their problems, who feel secure about going to a trusted friend or mum and dad about a problem because we've developed that. Also, bringing in children's ideas of what they would like to explore. And it all comes back to literacy skills, successful literacy skills. And if we can bring all that together, we've got success in the classroom. It doesn't happen in 24 hours, but it will happen by the end of the week if you start dripping in these questions. And more than anything, what you will notice is how easily you flow, being able to do it bit by bit. And I'm going to just ask everybody now, how do you feel right now? Remember, I asked you at the beginning, how do you feel? And we got, I'm fine, I'm thank you, more of that. How do you really feel right now as we're coming to the end of the session? Let's have a look in the chat. How are you really feeling? Let's see some emotional words. Oh, look at this. Really enjoyable, enriching, lovely. It's great that you're going to it. Charged up, motivated, enriched. Wow, this is music to my ears. And I'm really delighted and hoping, enthusiastic. But as you can see, it's not difficult. And we can explore this further with different sessions. But more than anything, you can see how easily you can pop it into your planning without having stress. I've been a teacher for many years in the classroom, and I used to remember when it was like, oh, we've got a new directive, we're going to do this. And I found the most successful things that worked were saying to them, you're kind of already doing it. We're just going to help you expand. And this is a great quote by Aristotle, and one that I'm sure resonates with you. So we have got a bit of time, Gitika, for Q&As. Would you like some Q&As? So I'm just going to say thank you very, very much for sharing with me. And it was absolutely wonderful that you're feeling charged up at the end of this session. So let's have a look at some questions and answers that we can do in our final moments. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. It was really a very insightful session. Even our participants are writing, and love is overflowing in the chat box. Uh, so there were many questions in the beginning of the session. I think you have covered some of them, like what is the importance of basically SCL in the classroom, and what are the strategies, some tips, how we can include it in the classroom. Other than that, we have a question that with increasing screen time, how is the development of social and emotional skills being impacted, and how maybe we can help our learners with that?
Yeah, this is a big question I often get about screen time, and it is hard because we have a generation of children who are being brought up with a screen as part of their learning environment, but also their social environment. And this is why, if you think about if you put the cards that I've given you in the pack up on your big screen, yes, we are using the screen, but we're also getting children to talk. The one thing about the I've noticed over the last 10 years with the progression of more digital use with small children is their ability to respond to questions. When we think about an 8-year-old would have about 10,000 words of vocabulary, we now know that an 8-year-old doesn't even have half of that. They are receptive to language, but they are not actually using it in answering questions. So you are facilitating this with these short little bursts of using a visual to talk about. Yes, we are using, I suppose, a screen to get it up there, or if you download the cards, it's a balance. But what we do want is looking at some of the things you can't change within the child's environment, which is what they do at home. If they go home to a screen, you can't control that. But within your classroom community, you can offer the opportunities for children to be able to talk, to be able to interact, to be able to discuss. All of these things were normal, like when I first started teaching, that we had talk time, we had time to actually process. Now, with a very packed curriculum, it's often very difficult. What I'm hoping is that you've looked at this session today and you can see parts that you can extract and put into your classrooms to get children that, if they are looking at something on digital, have a critical eye, have an emotional response. There's only so much we could do within our classrooms, but let's do it well. Let's be effective and let's try and make a difference in our small ways. I hope that helps.
Yes, definitely. As you said, I think this is the major concern which many teachers face, that maybe at home the child is being exposed with the screen time. So at school we can just we can have a critical eye and we can maybe help navigate those emotions at school level. And one more question was there about if a child is having behavioral issues and is disturbing the classroom, maybe hitting people in the classroom, hitting item in the classroom, but it's academically really well, doing really well in academics. So how do we deal these kind of situations?
Yes, and I have had situations like that. And this is where I really investigated the use of using a different way to talk to children. Because if you say to a child, what's wrong? They're not going to tell you. It's like when somebody tells you to calm down when you're upset. You never calm down when someone says, calm down. So using a visual can often help the child talk about what is bothering them, what is really upsetting them, without actually focusing on the issue. You can look at these cards, and if you're going to use the visual cues, the visual tools in a way to be able to help children who do have behavior issues, there are a different set of questions and a different way. And we'd need another session to talk about that. But what it does do is the children are focusing on that visual to talk about what is upsetting them. If I gave that child sitting there on the grass like that, why is that child sad? And the child who may be aggressive, disruptive in that classroom is given the opportunity to vocalize what they see. And then you can say, and how is it with you? What is it with you?
Mhm.
What is the problem with you? But first of all, we've explored the problem somewhere else so that we've got empathy. We've got empathy. The child is recognizing some of its issues in that visual tool, and then they're able to freely talk without any issue. It's a great way to resolve a situation, and it's a great way also for children to talk. So it's using your skills here to be able to identify. It works well with children on the special needs register, children who need
Yeah.
support, children who are aggressive and maybe have disruptive behavior. So you can use visual cues in so many ways, but the one thing is that the more you use them, the better you become at asking the right questions, and you will get the right answers. So I hope that helps.
That definitely helps. And there was a lot of learning from the session. And I think my key learning was, which you said at the end, that do one thing, but do it well, because that is also something we face in the classroom or in the school system, that the curriculum is so vast and we have a lot of other things to do. So maybe we cannot do all the strategies together, but if we start one by one and we do it properly, then we can definitely bring in a change.
Yeah, and teachers, you've looked at this today, and I bet you've said, I'm kind of doing that. I'm just going to zoom out
Yeah.
and zoom in, and I love using that to resonate how we can focus, and you'll know where to focus. So I hope this session has been extremely helpful for you, and it'd be lovely to explore it more as well. So thank you, Sav, for giving me the opportunity to talk about something I really love.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. It was a really, really insightful session. And just wanted to mention that the PPT is also there on the Glow dashboard. So you can have the visual cues which were discussed in the presentation today and take them in your classroom. Now, a massive thank you again to Yvonne and to our participants for making it so engaging and so informational. Let's continue our Glow journey. Our next session starts at 3:45 p.m. Featuring Sharani on mindset shift, cultivating emotional strength, intention, and clarity in classrooms. So let's keep building education that understands every heart. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and bye for now.